my second day on Colorado Trail segment 1. I'm only a couple miles in. I started at the bridge at the South Platte River. There's a little footbridge there where segment 2 begins, and I'm going toward Denver. I want to tell you the story of how I lost over 60 pounds, basically just by learning things from YouTube and emulating things that I learned or saw on YouTube, and by producing content for YouTube. I decided to start actively posting content to this channel at the end of 2017, which began with a trip to Utah. At the time, I weighed in at around 243 pounds, and now in mid-2022, I am down to 179. First, a lot of the nutritional advice that I followed came from a channel called What I've Learned. His channel likes to span history and culture and the differences between Western diets and Eastern Asian diets, prehistoric diets, etc. And it's from him that I learned that a combination of the keto diet and intermittent fasting was a fairly reliable way to lose weight. Just watching the steam roll up the side of the mountain there. Steam and fog, steam or fog, whatever you want to call it. It rained a lot last night, which is a good thing. This forest really needs it. The gist of it was that refined sugars and simple carbohydrates actually just make you more hungry. And if you get on a low carb diet and stick with it, and chances are you won't be so hungry that intermittent fasting is something painful that you have to experience. Quite the opposite, really. I felt like when I was in stages of ketosis, I was more alert and happier and even sleeping better. Now, the additional advice I can give is don't do everything all at once. Just do things in stages. Switch from full-bodied beer to light beer, or switch from sugary soda to diet soda. Start drinking more water than you usually have. Little things. And then add more complex bits of the keto diet or intermittent fasting as you go. Start skipping breakfast. Have snacks for lunch instead of a big meal. I think a big reason why I got so big in the first place was eating big lunches. You know, there was a reason for it. I was socializing with coworkers, and we go out to eat for lunch and have really nice meals. We have Mexican or Thai. Loved it. Loved that experience, but I was consuming so many calories at lunchtime, I really didn't need to eat dinner. But those lunches are also full of carbs, so I was really hungry by dinner time, and lo and behold, I'd have another big high carb dinner to go with it. Lots of pastas and potatoes. Healthy meals, but a lot of calories. And at the time, I wasn't very active. So that brings me to the second part. Doing the first couple of things, adding keto and IF, helped me lose about 20 or 30 pounds. And then the inspiration I received watching channels like Joe Robinet and Doug Linker, my Self Reliance, a bunch of Canadian guys that they're all buddies and they all do outdoorsy things, just like I'm doing right now. And they are in large part what inspired me to get out and do what I'm doing. Now, 2020 was a big pause year for me. Like everybody else, there wasn't much going on. And I kind of relaxed a lot on my tactics and gained a few more pounds, whatever, it happens. Well, eventually you got to stop blaming external worldly affairs and remember that it's my responsibility to get back into it. So I did. And that's how I lost the next 30 over the last 7 months. So my piece of advice there is to find what inspires you to be more active. Whatever that might be. Mountain climbing, horse racing, could be anything. Something you find is going to motivate you and get you out there. Well, I think something might be telling me that it's time to set up camp. It's already spitting rain. It's pretty late in the day. I'm at a campsite, so I guess I might as well. Better get cracking. All right, well, I got my tent set up to the point where I can even be bothered to deal with. Guess I'm just gonna let this storm roll in on me. Check out that view. You can see the walls of rain curtains coming in on me. It's a pretty exposed spot, but it's a fun one for filming. So, we ball. Well, this is fun. Actually, it is kind of fun. I enjoy this weather for some reason. I don't mind the rain as long as I'm not wet. I'm like looking right straight down at a burn scar. Kind of nifty. It like spreads this way and that from this position, almost like this is roughly where it started. I gotta look at a map and see where I am. So check this out. I'm right. I'm looking right down the middle of a burn scar, but I'm at the very end of it. I mean, it's great, but it's not perfect yet. Now it's perfect. All right, we're almost ready to go. Just waiting for things to dry out just a little bit more before I pack it in. But glorious sunrise, glorious morning. I love it. Can't wait to show off that time lapse. I didn't like the way my body generally performed while backpacking. So once I hit this new weight floor that I'm currently at, I started running. Not well, but I'm improving all the time. I'm under 11 minutes for a mile, so there's that. Not impressive, but gets the job done. And I can already tell that these past couple of months of running and a lot of long distance walking has definitely improved my performance out here. And as a wonderful side effect, I get to spend more time enjoying being out here and more time filming. Oh, I love these little tunnely bits of the trail. Oh, got a biker. Get out of the way. How you doing?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Good. How about you?
I'm doing great.
Good.
So take my advice with a grain of salt, but look into it yourself. See if it's something that's right for you to try. And at worst, you go back to whatever you're doing or do something else. But it never hurts to try. If you've got any weight loss or nutritional stories you'd like to share, absolutely share them with me. Even if it's just your own personal anecdote that runs completely counter to everything I just said. I especially want to hear from you. Nutritional science is always in flux, and along with that goes the advice. But I found something that worked for me, that makes sense to me, that's logical, that I'm happy with, and I got results. And for me, that's what it was all about. Lately, I have not posted a whole lot, and that's because life has very much gotten in the way. All at once, I'm having to deal with a move to a new city, dealing with graduation of my daughter from high school. Technically, I'm an empty nester now, and I'm only 41. Then we helped her move out, move to another state. I'm also between jobs right now, IRL work. But the good news about being between jobs is I get to take a few weeks off, and I'm going to make the absolute most of it. And that ties into this channel a little bit, me generating some new content. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but I will say, for me at least, it's going to be freaking epic. So let me tell you about the routine that I've adopted. For about 3 weeks in a row, I'll have a keto dinner, which means there's basically just a meat and a veggie. Go to bed, wake up, have about 3 cups of coffee in the morning, black coffee. I completely skip breakfast. And I think that's one of the most necessary incremental steps you should take. You know, it's okay to have, bacon and eggs if you want for breakfast, but that's the best time to do your intermittent fasting is by skipping that one meal. And it's especially something you want to skip if your routine is to have milk, which is full of lactose, sugar, and simple carbohydrates, which, like something like Cheerios, heavily processed carbs. And a lot of times these cereals have added sugar too. And if you are a daily breakfast eater and you notice you're voraciously hungry by 11 o'clock or noon, that's probably why. It kind of plays into that whole carbs equals hungry sort of scenario. An important meal to skip once you're doing intermittent fasting is to skip breakfast. Closer to noon or about 2 p.m., I'll have a couple of snacks, which might be something like string cheese. Sometimes if I'm having a meal for lunch, it'll be what I would have for a keto breakfast, which is going to be something like bacon and eggs. One of my go-tos is meat and cheese, but another popular one, if you like celery and peanut butter, that's a perfect one. You could probably even get away with adding some raisins on those if you want. Towards the end of the day, again, dinner. I happen to eat at like 7:30, 8 o'clock, but most people eat a lot earlier than that. Whatever works best for you, whatever your routine is, should be fine. As long as there's a few hours left before you go to bed, you're generally fine. All right, I've just been informed that I'm only about a quarter of a mile from the dam, and I'm seeing signs for it already. So this, I think, is the end of the trail proper before it just turns to road and takes me into Denver. So, whoa, that was a doozy. So thus, effectively ends segment 1. Now, after maybe this 2 or 3 week long routine is done, I'll go back to a more normal meal schedule with more carbohydrates than I would when I'm on my keto and IF, which means I might snack starting earlier in the day, have more snacks during the day, maybe have a full meal for lunch, but that meal might be low carb. But then with dinner, I'll have something with pastas or breads or something like that. Even when I'm off the diet, the carb load is lower. I'm still skipping breakfast. So some of those elements of the weight loss routine are incorporated into the nominal routine where I'm not trying to actively lose weight. And in that regard, I keep the weight off. I think in the worst case scenario, I went probably 3 months without dieting and trying to lose weight. I was a little bit excessive probably on consuming carbohydrates. In that 3-month span, I probably gained anywhere from 5 to 6 pounds. When I went back on the routine, those 5 to 6 pounds are gone within days. Pretty easy to get rid of them when you go back on the diet. And this is something that I'm going to do in perpetuity. I'm going to do a couple months off, a couple weeks on. When I'm out doing these sort of activities, I actually do low carb meals still, avoiding things like tortillas and breads and meal in a bag type scenarios that just are loaded with carbohydrates to get you lots of calories, which is great if you're trying to do some kind of a long duration event or you're in a survival situation or survival mode. Any and all calories are good for you. But, this is a 2-day thing. I don't want to spend this whole time feeling hungry. And that's the only reason why I'm avoiding carbs. It's not necessarily because I'm trying to lose weight or trying to do something. For my comfort level, I'd rather not have a dinner full of carbs and then be starving in the morning and then more carbs and then be starving in the afternoon and then more carbs and so on. Well, I believe this might be a trail first. It's hailing a little bit. Just a stone here and there, about pea size. And my permanent Eeyore cloud over my trail hiking experience continues. This is fun. Hi, fellas. Mule deer. Yep. Hi. Oh, you don't have to be scared.